And today I want to do a quick video on the gear we use for shooting long-range videos. We get occasional questions, and this is just an update of what we've got to, that maybe for people who are looking at going to start to do this thing for themselves, this might give you some clues in the way of the stuff we use. A fair bit of gear that builds up over time, all about trying to do the job better, trying to make sense of what we're doing, and it certainly involves multiple cameras and bits and pieces to be able to record things with the scheme of what I've sort of learned to do and how I put it forward is actually make sure that we're putting forward stuff that you can really see what actually happened, but also try and keep it a little bit entertaining or exciting with some different camera angles and bits and pieces. It's just not just documenting things, it's also something that for some people it's living vicariously through what they can't get to and we can do. For other people they're learning about things, and in general trying to do something. It's also something that I'm learning as I go as to how to produce videos and how to get the effects I want to get, that sort of stuff. But like I said, keeping it real in that process as well. And I suppose the first bit I'll go there is the keeping it real. What I always try and do in the videos, or always put in there, is you can actually see the real time of an ELR shot. Now that's done by people who've noticed. It'll be obvious for people who haven't noticed, and this is about to explain. That's done by using a long-range camera that can actually zoom in, and by having the camera behind the muzzle, but close to the muzzle, you can actually see the camera flinch at the beginning of the shot and then see the actual full travel. Well, you can't see the bullet travel, but you see the flinch and then you see the impact. Easier to see when it's not impacting the steel or the target, easiest to see when it's actually hitting the dirt. So then you can see by the counter on the bottom, by using a stopwatch, by whatever, you get to see the same thing that we do in the way of the actual time of the shot, which in its own sense is verifying the shot. Certainly for us it is. It's also, that footage is what I use to time the GoPros that are at target to the footage from where we're shooting. That flinch in the camera, that sound recording actually lets me time things. I can see this thing in real time, and that lets me time everything, all the producing I do, which I use the Cyberlink Power Producer program to do that. The latest one, I'm always updating that to try and do it faster and better, and need decent computer power to do that sort of stuff. I'll sometimes have 7 strands that I'm trying to time together, lots of footage, lots of hours, lots of work, but that's what we do. So to do that, the long range camera, I use a couple of different ones. In this little case here, I have the new, this is for the extreme long range stuff that we do, or the ultra long range stuff. This is the Nikon P1000, nice camera, lots of zoom, lots of power. It's a big creature, as you can see. When it zooms forward, it's even a bigger creature. Let's see if I can zoom it forward for you. No, wrong way. Zoomed out, it's a great big monster of a thing. Very good, very clear footage. I had to build up a special little bracket. Let's turn that back off. A bracket on the bottom here to actually where it mounts into a different place than when it comes from the factory. But that's a bit of an investment for us to get the really good footage as much as you can. You're looking through air, so as clear as you can. But we use that a bit. We still go back to the sort of cameras that we've always used. I'll undo the main camera case. I'll give you a shot in here of what it looks like. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 GoPros, couple of little cameras, but the one I'm talking about is this, and this is the SX60HS in the Canon PowerShot. It zooms in a fair way as well, so let's turn it on. You see it extending out. It still extends out quite a way, going up to, I think that's 240 power or something like that. The Nikon goes even further. I won't go into the specs, but I deliberately started using these because you can zoom in. The other feature that both these cameras had, which is not that common in these little digital cameras, they're not SLRs, these are full digital cameras, but and talking SLR, that's a single lens reflex, so that's a camera that you can actually view the proper image through the viewfinder. Neither of these, both of these have screens on the back of them, which means they're fairly hard to see how accurately you're focused, and there's a little bit of messing around with focus in the ELR stuff. But both of them have external mic slots. So we use the hot shoe on the top here, which is your flash shoe. That simply mounts, let's do that properly, that simply mounts it, and then this plugs into the point on the side here, so we have an external mic so that we can deaden the wind sound as much as possible. And this is the camera. Either one of these, when they're running, is the cameras that we actually get all our audio from. Other cameras that we use, this is the normal ones that are at us at Target. Got a couple of these little Canons. I'll put images on there. This is another power shot, but these little cameras are quite good. We just mount on a tripod for the side profiles and that sort of stuff. We use them for that. And then some of the close-up, the little GoPros, and this GoPro here, which is a normal feature you'll see quite commonly. These are for the close-ups on your trigger and that sort of stuff. But a couple of choices there. Like I said, a couple of these cameras, which are always running, which give you choices for the side profiles and that side of things. And yeah, basically for it's on us cameras we work there. Decent footage. We don't use the audio from them. Do use the audio for the timing, but we don't use the audio for the videos themselves. And then the GoPro side of things for the close-up stuff. So a close-up on Sam or a close-up on me, we use these for a couple there. And have a couple little stands. I have a range of different styles of stand extension bolts and things like this that can push into the ground or push into, there's a little frame that we have as well to sit this one on. But these sort of things let us position GoPros up close to us. So that's the stuff that's generally running at the sort of, these are on target but at long range, and these other ones are running on us. In the field, we have these two original old GoPros, the Hero, the original before the 1, 2 and 3s. These ones here are our main steadies that are at a target or on the target. We have a couple of, I'll pull this stuff apart. Actually, I might put some of this stuff down so I don't get too crowded. Oh, now before I go to target, actually what I haven't finished there is another key ingredient which we use now is this tripod, which is just a Manfrotto. It's the one, it's a good sturdy one, and I'll put on pictures of this stuff. But it has this gear head. Now what that means is with this platform, that we screw onto bottom whichever camera we want, but that locks on there, and that means that then you can drive this camera up, down, in between. You can actually drive it to target. It's nice and stable, so it lets you adjust, fine-tune onto it. It takes a certain amount of practice, and certainly Sam is very skilled at adjusting this thing onto target. There are ways to do it faster. There are cam locks in here that let you move things to get it closer, and then you fine-tune with the gears. But it means it's very stable. It means to a large degree you can set it up on target and it's there, and adjust, fine-tune all that sort of stuff nicely. So rather than trying to use a ball head like on the normal stand that we do with the other cameras, ball head being that sort of thing, you can position things, lock it up and position on the normal GoPro, on the normal Manfrotto tripods. This one has the gear head. Now we had a different earlier one off a cheap telescope to start with, but this is what I found. They're reasonably expensive, this little rig on the setup here, but gives you that controllability. But it also gives, because it is set up with the cameras up here, the shockwave from the muzzle blast actually makes this flinch. In various different directions, it's not always the same way, but there's always a flinch in something with reasonable power, that is anyway. 22 is not going to do it. But certainly with a decent muzzle brake on there, there's a shock in the air that this camera sees it, and that was not something that I realized until we'd started, but it's certainly something that once we realized that was happening, it's an important ingredient that we always put into it. Make sure it's there. I try and do as much as you'll generally see. Sometimes there's picture in picture, sometimes I'll cut from one to the other, a bit more like TV does it, that sort of stuff. But generally when I do that, I'll also make sure I try and include a full shot. So you're just on target and you can see the flinch and the hit or the impact in the dirt close to target, so you can actually time the shot for yourself. I think it's an important ingredient of making it real. Otherwise it can just be all produced and nothing can be real. This is actually done in a fashion where we're making sure we're showing that part of it, so you really get to see what's going on without any question. And like I said, you can time it. There's a timer on the bottom of the screen. You can actually see it and start to make sense of what we're seeing as well. Anyway, I'll put that one down. That gear head is certainly an important part of this process. Makes it a lot easier than trying to put on with a ball head, but certainly works for us. Okay, so back out to target. These two GoPros, and what I have is a couple of stands like this. People ask, do you ever hit a target? Yes, occasionally I hit a GoPro. Occasionally we hit the back of this steel. This is just mild steel, but it is a whole stand made up that goes in front of targets. There's this one and another one that's similar, and then we set it up so then we can move this around onto target wherever we want to aim it, and it's protected by a proper little steel frame on the back here. So that works really nicely. Yes, occasionally it'll get hit. When it gets hit, generally it's going to make the GoPro spin around or fall off or do that sort of stuff. But occasionally, once or twice a year in 50 shoots that we go out to, these will get hit when we're getting onto target. Not something I tend to include in that side of things. There's bits and pieces when it does happen. There's other stuff going on, that sort of stuff. It's not something that I try and show off, but it is something that occasionally happens. What we do because of that and because of everything else, because of tech does things wrong occasionally, is we always have two cameras on target. Now that's why I had two of these stands and two of these GoPros. As we do multiple shoots with more stuff, I went to other ways of doing it, which is why I have four of these little fellas while I'm doing the different jobs they do on occasions. And I made these simple little stands up here, which are the same process, simpler, smaller, and that simply pushes into the ground. So if I'm the target, that pushes into the ground. It has a little protector which actually protects the these little GoPros, and obviously then they're taking up less space. You know, these work really well. I've forgotten what they're called, but I'll put that link on there. But this little GoPro system, they're very cheap. They work really nicely. Don't have quite the battery life of these fellas, but the whole logic, now they'll tend to be one of these and one of these on any one target. And that is for the specific reason of, yes, occasionally one will get hit. That's not really the problem. It's the other stuff. It's the corrupt file. It's the battery that went flat. It's all the other things that when you're away, and we're away for 20 minutes or half an hour or 40 minutes or whatever it's away for, we're not there to check. And if that GoPro dies, you don't have that footage. So having two at least, sometimes three nowadays, with those two and one of these, is something that if it really matters, it's just a backup plan. It's part of the big process of doing it in real life and actually doing it, as I don't get to recut that scene. That is a case of when we do the hit, we work under target and we get there in one shot or 3 shots or 10 shots or 15 shots or whatever it is. We want to record all that sort of stuff, and we need to have all those bits and pieces there. If we don't have the footage, you don't have the footage. You can't make it up. So the backup plan and two works for us as well. Okay, so the rest of it, I think I've obviously shown the other stands that we use. We have a few tripods, I should say. We have some little ones which we use as well in various places. So a group of that sort of stuff really helps. I tend to use these little fellas here, just these little buttons, to work with those tripods. So they just screw on the bottom there. So I have a gang of those. That means I can clip on to, in any format, very easily put a camera on a tripod in various places. And I suppose that's that stuff there. The last detail, and I'll clean a bit of this stuff away again, is the drone. We use the Mavic Pro. Little fella, does the job nicely. Various forms of still learning how to use it, that sort of stuff. Fly home feature and things like that can certainly help, but really it's about being creative. It's about working how to do it. I use this little fella, easy with charging and batteries and all those bits and pieces, but basically because I have a fair bit of a kit nowadays, and to be able to get pack everything in the car with all the firearms, with the ammunition, with the target, we basically go out to target. When you see our videos, we are almost always going out, setting up the target, setting up the GoPros, going through the property. The property we shoot on is not where someone lives, so there's no one there when we're there early in the mornings. So we go through, we still set up a range flag so they know, anyone that does come onto the property knows that we're there, because there is a flag on there, but it is for the fact of not time to come to work yet, guys, we're still doing our bit. Then we head up to our shooting, and up to where we're actually shooting from. We set the whole thing up, and then within generally half an hour to 40 minutes, we're all gone. There's nothing left. There's nothing but footprints and some projectiles lying around the place, which you can't find, because no brass, no nothing in the way of what we do. So yeah, it's all about being able to put it in the car, and this little fella being able to fold up really works nicely on that sort of score. For those that don't know, I haven't seen one of these set up. There's a little frame in here that pulls apart, but this little drone is what we use, is what you see taking that flying footage, and does the job wonderfully for us. Anyway, that's about a list of bits and pieces. I'll put images on these as I've spoken about them, so you can see all that sort of stuff. Just a little update for people of what we're doing. There's one other camera that I haven't mentioned, which is the one you're looking at. I'll put an image of that too. That's a Sony, and really just by happy circumstance, it does the job well for doing exactly this sort of stuff. It's the one that we use when we're talking, out in the field and in here. Does a good job. I like the image from it, nice and easy to use. And I suppose that's pretty much how all our equipment is. It's all designed out of stuff that's worked for us. Build up, there's other cameras that we've bought over time that don't do the job as well. There's other forms of GoPro and that sort of stuff, that bits and pieces that have failed and stuff down the track. It is definitely a constant expense. Doesn't need to be a huge one. Not all this stuff was bought brand new. Most of it generally is, but the concept is still the same, step by step. The backup plan sort of works for us. For us, that gear head and the moving footage is really important. And of course, learning how to use it, learning how to set it up is a big key in the ingredient. And the last thing I'll go back through is that, yes, the audio side of things that we do, and I suppose I should go through that. We use that I'll grab that. We use either this or the Nikon as the long range camera. This is what Sam is always running and doing behind. This is the mic that's always in gear and does its job. And then we use out at target, we use well, not that one, this is one of those. We use these mics. This is what records the sound out there. So it is a bit of a surreal thing you're watching, because you get to hear the hits on target and that sort of stuff. You get to hear the dump into the ground. Us up at target, us up at the shooting spot, shooting location, we don't hear those bits and pieces, but I always put it in, I time it all together. I use this footage to time everything and make it all work. That, you know, when there's broken pieces of footage, when we stop and start a camera, because they really are only around 15 minutes, most of these sort of stuff, and we can be having them running before we start shooting, that sort of stuff. The stop and starts make it harder for producing, for sure, but it's part of the process, part of how you put it all together. And yeah, we like what we put together. It sounds that we get good feedback from that sort of stuff, but that's our way of doing it, and I just thought I'd share. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in on us. I hope that was at least entertaining a little bit, if not informative. Otherwise, anyway, thanks for checking in on us. We'll catch you next time.